Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to my channel, and today we're gonna work on created the basket. As an example, that's the basket I created from the yarn leftovers that I had. So basically, if you have any scraped yarn, you can create the basket using that yarn, or you can create a basket like this one by using a special textile yarn that you can purchase, I think, in every store these days. It doesn't really matter which one you use. I purchased this yarn just because it is easier and faster to work with, but technique is exactly the same for both those baskets, and it doesn't matter what yarn you're using. The only thing, if you are using different yarns to create your basket, it will look differently depending on the yarn thickness. If you're, let's say, using a thicker yarn on the bottom and then thinner yarn on the top, your basket is gonna shape weird. So make sure that the thickness of the yarn is the same for all the colors you're using for your basket. So besides the yarn, we're gonna need 2 hooks. One smaller one to get started. I'm using 3mm hook, and another one bigger because it's gonna be easier to work with the thicker yarn. In my case, I'm using a 6mm hook or textile yarn, but for this particular yarn, you can use just one size of the hook to create a basket like that. So to get started, you need to place your yarn this way, turn it around, and make sure it gets crossed over here. Then you turn your hand like that, pull through your yarn, and then you need to crochet one and just pull it a little bit. So that is your first stitch. Now we're gonna do 5 more single crochet in the round. And how you check? You can count, you have 5 V-lines over here. Now that we have made 5 single crochets, we can pull the yarn tail to tighten the center and form a small circle. To close the round, pull the last loop through the first V of the round and bring into the back. Next, gently make that loop a little bigger. Then pass your work through the loop from the left to the right to secure it. Next, locate the very first V from your stitches. Insert your hook right between the 2 strands of that V. Pull the yarn through to the front and complete the stitch. For this round, we'll be making 6 increases. That means we'll work 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So in every V that was formed by our previous single crochets, we'll place 2 stitches. We'll finish the second round the same way we finished the first one, and we'll repeat this method at the end of every following round. Pull the last loop through the first V of the round and bring it to the back. Then make the loop a little larger and pass your work through it from the left to right. Finally, pull the yarn to tighten and secure the stitch. If the hole in the center looks a little too large, you can simply pull on the yarn tail to tighten it slightly and close the gap. And then start your next round the same way we started second round. Make sure you're inserting your hook into the split of the stitch in the pattern, not under the top V of the stitch. In the next round, we'll again make 6 increases. This time we'll work 2 stitches into every second stitch around. Right, so we're at the end of the row, and if you did everything correctly, you had to crochet 2 in the last one. And so you had 12 stitches in your second row, you did 6 increases, and now you have 18 stitches. Now again, you're finding the first chain over here. Please be sure that's not this one, because that's our first stitch. That's the first one that is going on the top. Now you pull through, even it out. Make a bigger loop, and again go from the left side to the right side and tighten it out. Okay, that's our third row. Now we're gonna work on the fourth row, and we're gonna do basically the same thing. We're gonna do 6 increases. This time we'll make the increases in the stitches that were worked at the single stitches in the previous round. In other words, if you just made an increase and worked 2 stitches into one, you won't increase in those 2 stitches. Instead, you'll make the next increase in the stitch that was worked as a single stitch. This helps keep the base nice and round instead of forming a hexagon. Moving forward, you're gonna do 6 increases in every next row, and make sure you're crocheting your increases in the single stitches, not in the 2 stitches where you made increases in the prior row. Continue working your rounds this way until the base reaches the size you want for the bottom of your basket. Then we'll meet back here to start forming the sides. So we are at the end of the row, And now we're gonna finish it by basically doing the same, except you don't have to go around this time. So you are finding the V shape you just did, and you need to go in between those two. And then you are finding this loop over here. So if you look here, you have more of loops like that, right? So you're going in between these two, catching this another loop here, pulling through your yarn, and now you need to pull through this yarn you have, and just pull a little bit. So this way you're starting to shape the side of your basket. So moving forward, we're not going to make any add-ons. You will just continue crocheting the same way. And the way you are shaping is basically you're finding this loop, your hook is going in between. Then, as I said, you need to find this part, go through, pull your yarn through, and do half double crochet. So this way you are forming your basket. Again, just want to make sure you see it. Here is your going under this one, right? Pull through and finish your half double crochet. And so this way you will go around and you will shape the sides of your basket. I'll meet you at the end of the row. Once you're done, we'll finish the row together. All right, so we're at the end of the row. I have the last stitch left. So I'm going to crochet the very last stitch. Now we're gonna finish basically as we did last time. We're gonna pull our yarn through to the back, just tighten it up a little bit. And now, if you look here, you have this first V shape. You need to pull your work yarn from the back to the front and pull this loop through. So that way we formed the first stitch of our next row. So moving forward, you're gonna need to crochet as many rows as you want up until the height that you want for your basket. So every single time you finishing your row, you are basically finishing up the same way you did previously. That's going to be exactly the same pattern. You pull it through, tighten it up, and then you look for the closest one, for the closest V shape. Pull through, pull the yarn through to the right side and crochet. This way it just gets aligned, and each time you put your hook, insert your hook in between this yarn, you also want to make sure that you are going in between the yarn over here. So each time the hook should be out in between these two yarns. That way it's gonna also form nicely and get shaped nicely, right, on the wrong side as well as on the right side. Okay, so we are done with the sides of our basket. It turned out that way, and now we are not gonna finish per our usual process. So what we need to do, so basically you can either finish at this point, or I'm suggesting you to make the side of your basket a little bit stronger and just make it look a little bit better. So up to you, you can do it or you can leave it as is. So if you want to make a side of the basket a little bit stronger, what you need to do, we need to measure 5.5 times around the basket. We need to measure the length of our yarn. So it's going to be 1, 2, and we're gonna cut our yarn somewhere here. Perfect. So at this point, we're just gonna pull out our yarn all the way through. We're done here. Now we're gonna close out our yarn. So I'm gonna create kind of, and I'm now using the smaller hook just to make everything a little bit tighter and make everything look just a little bit neater. So you are inserting your hook per usual process under this one and pulling your yarn through. Now we need to pull the yarn all the way out to the back. So that way we formed this one, this side, right? And now we need to form another side. So should be something, should look like this. So we need to tighten it up a little bit. So we are gonna insert our hook underneath right here and pull all the way out again. And as I said, if you want to be done, you can finish right here and just hide the end, and that is gonna be it. But I am suggesting you to make the side of your basket just a little bit tighter. So you are gonna start inserting the hook under this part, not over here, but just per the regular process as when you were crocheting, just for a simple way. So we are gonna do just a simple crochet. You need to go all around your basket that way, and I'm gonna meet you at the end. And so we are done at the end, and we're gonna close out the same way we did with the prior row. Going to pull through the other side. That is going to create this one, this side, right side of the loop, and then we are going to finish by inserting the hook over here and going in between. through to the back. Even it out. Basically, we're done. So now we're just gonna hide the ends. I would suggest just using your and pulling the end through the different sides, and then you can simply cut it once you're done. And you can do the same over here, just going in round, pulling it through and hiding the end.
And that's it, our basket is finished. If anything was unclear, feel free to leave your questions in the comment section and I'll be happy to help. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more tutorials.